The first candidate that we're going to highlight is Mark Taylor. And Mark Taylor is running for Jefferson County prosecutor. He's a conservative Republican and is currently an attorney at the law firm Rigby, Andrus & Rigby in Rexburg, Idaho. After studying law and economics at the Anton Scalia Law School, Mark investigated and prosecuted civil antitrust cases for the U.S. government, which he did for 11 years. He moved his family to Jefferson County so that his 4 children could grow up in a rural area with a strong work ethic and conservative values that was rooted in personal liberty and self-reliance. He attended BYU on a leadership scholarship and is a former MTC and seminary teacher. This is my favorite part of his bio. Mark is lucky to be married to a beautiful, charming French woman, Elodie Taylor. Okay, we'll turn it over to Mark.
Okay, thank you, Cheryl, and thank you for organizing this, and thank you everybody for participating in this unusual format given the coronavirus situation. Let me start by telling you why I'm running for office. I was approached about a year ago by some of the people working in county government who asked me to run for prosecuting attorney. I had to think twice about it because I was just getting settled at the law firm where I work. However, when they explained to me the needs that Jefferson County has that are not being met by the current prosecuting attorney, I recognized that my experience could really make a difference for our community, and I decided to take on the challenge. There are 3 things our county needs that I'm going to talk about with you today. The first need is to protect our shared conservative values rooted in personal liberty and self-reliance. Like many people who live in Jefferson County, I'm an advocate for the life of the unborn, the right to bear arms, religious freedom, freedom in education, and the traditional family. Many people are moving to our county because they are conservatives who want to live with like-minded people. However, with that growth comes the challenges of preserving the way of life that is attracting people here in the first place. For example, people love being close to their favorite outdoor activities and like the rural environment. Oops, looks like my video is turned off. Can you see me okay? Okay, I'm going to keep going.
We hear you well.
Okay, well, I don't know why the video stopped working, but I will just keep on going with what I was saying. So, as I was saying, with the growth of our county comes challenges to preserving our way of life that's attracting people here in the first place. For example, people love being close to their favorite outdoor activities and like the rural environment, but our rapid growth can put a pressure on those things. People like the low taxes, but might not always appreciate that it means smaller government and greater self-sufficiency. People feel safe here, but with a larger population comes the risk of greater population density, anonymity, and increased crime rates. None of these are inevitable or insurmountable problems, but avoiding them will take proactive, hard work to preserve our lifestyle, even as we welcome the arrival of like-minded people who want to live here. The second need I wanted to point out was the need to promote efficient, accountable, and transparent use of county attorneys and taxpayer dollars. What I mean by that is I have visited with many people in Jefferson County and listened to their concerns. With all of the growth in our county, there's a huge need for legal advice on civil matters to the county commissioners and each county department, like planning and zoning and road and bridge. Unlike criminal, civil law governs how the county conducts its business, things like contracts, county ordinances, and taxes. Every prosecuting attorney in Idaho that I'm aware of either does the civil law and hires deputies to do the criminal or vice versa. Unfortunately, the current prosecuting attorney's office just hired a 3rd full-time criminal attorney, but only has 1 part-time deputy for all the county's civil matters, and he mainly advises only the commissioners. That leaves no one to handle all the issues in planning and zoning, road and bridge, or any of the other county departments. To fill that civil law void, the incumbent has assigned one of our county's best criminal prosecutors to deal with planning and zoning issues, but that is not his expertise, and he is spending less time prosecuting crime, which is his expertise. It's not an efficient use of our county's attorneys. I've also heard complaints about the incumbent hiring an additional attorney without showing publicly that the office's caseload justifies it. I think I can do better. As a full-time civil attorney, I would eliminate the need for the part-time civil position, returning its $67,000 plus salary back into the budget, and allow the remaining 2 attorneys to focus on their criminal expertise. I would also not hire additional attorneys until I could justify it based on publicly available caseload information. Incidentally, there are citizens who have made public records requests for that caseload information, and the prosecuting attorney's office has denied those requests. I have personally had public records requests denied as well. I've been told that decisions about the county's business are often made in non-public executive sessions. This all suggests to me that the incumbent is trying to avoid being accountable to the public. So I would make the prosecuting attorney's office more efficient in how it uses its attorneys and its resources, more transparent, and more accountable to the public. The third need I've identified is to work hand in hand with law enforcement to protect our community and deliver justice for all residents of Jefferson County. This is another common theme that I've heard from nearly everyone I've spoken with. It's that the current prosecuting attorney has a pattern of not prosecuting felonies. When law enforcement officers work hard to gather evidence of felony crimes, only to see the prosecuting attorney so frequently refusing to charge the crimes as felonies, it hurts their morale. And again, we can do better. As the county's prosecuting attorney, I would work hand in hand with local law enforcement to ensure the prosecuting attorney's office prosecutes more of law enforcement's felony cases. It is the judge's job to decide the cases. The prosecutor's job is to bring them. If there's a problem with the evidence that law enforcement has gathered, let them hear it from the judge. This is not what's happening right now. So let me share with you an example. About 2 years ago, as 2 female employees were locking up the Family Dollar store for the night, a man wearing a black one-eyed ski mask and a black baseball cap jumped out from behind a car with a black handgun with a silver top, pointing at them, and ordered them to unlock the door and to go back into the store. He ordered them to open the cash registers and to open the safe while cocking the handgun and pointing it at the face of one of the employees. When the employee said she couldn't open the safe and the building alarm was about to go off, the robber turned and ran out of the building. Rigby police interviewed the employees and learned that one of them thought she recognized the robber's voice and mannerisms. The police went to the suspect's home and interviewed him and the friend he was with. When the police played back the interviews to the 2 employees, one of them identified the suspect's friend's voice as the voice of the gunman. The police obtained a search warrant for the new suspect and found the black ski mask and the black baseball cap, which one of the employees identified as being the ones that were worn by the gunman. She also identified a picture of the gun that the police were able to associate with the residents from a previous theft case as being the one that was used in the robbery. When the police took all this evidence to the prosecuting attorney, the incumbent told them he was not persuaded by the evidence and refused to charge the suspect. So no charges were brought. For me, I find that story disturbing. Many have explained this story to me in this manner. The incumbent's background is as a criminal defender, and that is who he is at heart, and there is nothing wrong with that. Our legal system needs criminal defenders, just not sitting in the prosecutor's chair. So in conclusion, I have nothing against the incumbent personally. We are not acquainted with each other. But that doesn't change the fact that the county would be better served having a full-time civil attorney to advise the commissioners and work with the county departments, especially planning and zoning, to proactively address and even anticipate issues that arise as our county grows. This would eliminate 1 part-time position and save the county at least $67,000. I would also honor the work done by our local law enforcement, letting the judges decide their felony cases rather than the prosecuting attorney deciding not to bring felony charges. If a judge rules against the felony prosecution, we will learn from those losses what we need to do differently, but at least the work law enforcement did will not be summarily rejected by the prosecuting attorney. And finally, by advising county departments in ways they can protect our shared conservative values and investigate and prosecute civil cases consistent with those values. So that's all I have as far as my introduction and my presentation. If there's anyone who has questions, I'm happy to hear them.
Yes, Mark. So I would like to understand a little bit more about your background and what your activities were when you were in DC, and exactly what you were. Was it strictly corporate trust agreement or trust issues, or were there what was your exact role, and what's your experience level?
Okay. So I was hired straight out of law school to work for the Federal Trade Commission, investigating and prosecuting federal antitrust cases. So antitrust cases are basically cases against monopolies. So it's very large corporations that tend to slip into monopoly and to control the marketplace. And antitrust laws are in place to prevent that, to keep the economy competitive, to make sure that each marketplace is competitive with competitive players in it. And so that's what I did for 11 years. I investigated allegations that usually very large companies were somehow stifling competition in a given market. And I would receive the complaint, investigate it, gather the evidence, put together the case against them, and run it up the chain to convince the Federal Trade Commission to prosecute. Once that was achieved, inevitably the companies would settle on the terms that we demanded, because it's pretty intimidating once the federal government decides to bring a case against you. Most companies decide they'd rather settle. So that has been my experience. I did that for 11 years. I led teams of attorneys in those investigations. And if you wanted to know specifics about some of the cases I brought, you're welcome to go to my LinkedIn profile, where I have links to some of the cases, the public ones that I brought.
Oh, okay, thanks. Mark, I guess what my real question is how much experience and background do you have in the types of criminal and civil or prosecutions that a county prosecutor would perform?
Right. So I don't know if you were there for the whole thing, but I explained earlier that
I didn't.
Okay. So there are two types of law, two areas of law. There's civil law and there's criminal law. And you have experience in one area or the other, and very rarely do they mix. And it's very hard to have expertise in both areas. And so each prosecuting attorney's office in Idaho, the prosecuting attorney either does the civil work and hires deputy prosecuting attorneys to do the criminal, or vice versa. And so in this situation, I would be a full-time civil attorney to address our county's civil matters, which are currently being neglected by only having one part-time civil attorney address those needs, whereas we have 3 criminal attorneys. And so I would bring balance to the office and address the needs that are being neglected right now on the civil side by being a full-time civil attorney. And I would keep the current 2 a deputy prosecuting attorney whose expertise is in crime. Does that make sense?
Yes. And what's your current work up in Rexburg now? You're working as an attorney?
That's correct. I'm at the law firm of Rigby Anderson Rigby in Rexburg, where I do especially civil litigation, as well as some estate planning and things of that nature. General practice law, but especially civil litigation.
Good. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for the question.
Great. I just wanted to ask you, Mr. Taylor, concerning in your discussion of and the separation of the civil and the criminal portions of prosecuting attorney's responsibility, you said that you would be supporting the civil part. I was interested in knowing how you would cover the legal counsel with respect to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
How I would cover it? Is that what the question was?
Yes.
So I would cover that myself. And unless the burden was overwhelming between counseling with the departments and counseling with the commissioners, I would take care of that myself. That's my intention.
Okay, thank you.